In Chapter 4, we discuss inchoate or anticipatory crimes. Now, these offenses are the most difficult to understand, although it is one of the most critical components to understanding law. Therefore, I will be splitting this chapter up into 2 recordings so that if you need to come back and play it again, that you'll be able to. So to get us started, inchoate offenses. These are failed or incomplete efforts to commit a crime, but they're also called preparatory or anticipatory crimes, and they're punished just like crimes, even though no major injury or loss has taken place. All right, so the 4 different most common inchoate crimes are accessory, attempt, conspiracy, and solicitation. And in this video, we will be covering attempts and solicitation. All right, so an attempt is the specific intent to commit a crime coupled with an act in furtherance of the crime that goes beyond mere preparation. So questions such as how far a person has to go down the path towards the commission of a substantive crime has created confusion with the criminal justice system for many, many years. So let's take a look at the elements of attempt. So that has 2 basic elements. And elements are a fact that has to be present or proven. So we'll be discussing elements from here till the end of the semester. So just know that when you hear the elements of a crime, the elements are those facts that have to be proven. So the first one is that there's a specific intent to commit a crime. And then also it must be present that an act or conduct to carry out the intent to commit the specific crime that goes beyond mere preparation. So for example, let's say John makes a plan to poison his wife's coffee to kill her. He puts the poison in the coffee, but then she doesn't drink it. So he took specific steps to carry out the crime. However, the fact that he wasn't successful doesn't negate his culpability, which is also the mens rea, which we discussed a few weeks ago. So he would be liable in that case. But let's say that he makes a plan to poison his wife's coffee. He buys the poison, but then he decides not to do it and he tosses the poison out. I would say that he's not gone past mere preparation because he didn't take a substantial step in the fact that he changed his mind and threw out the poison. So the courts look at the probable distance test, and it says, would the defendant have stopped his conduct in committing the crime given the actions he's already completed, absent any outside intervening factors? So in example 1, he bought the poison, put it in her coffee, and then she just didn't drink it. So he wasn't able to complete his crime because she didn't drink it. So those are outside intervening factors. Had it not been for her not drinking it, he would have been successful. But then in example 2, where I said he changed his mind and he tossed out the poison, so he didn't complete the crime because he changed his mind. So the probable distance test would not be met. Now there are some issues with attempts in court. So one is legal impossibility. And it says if a defendant misunderstands the law and believes their act is a crime, there's no punishment for attempting to do something that's not illegal. So let's look at an example. Attempting to steal something that is being given away or thrown away. So it was legally impossible for the person to be stealing anything because it wasn't stolen. Then we look at factual impossibility, and these are the ones that a defendant will be found guilty of the crime of attempt, even if it was factually impossible for him or her to commit the crime. And an example of that would be attempting to rob a bank that ends up just being an empty building. Now these 2 issues, the legal and factual impossibility, adds to the confusion surrounding the crime of attempt. In the real world, criminals very seldom commit crimes according to textbook definitions, as we know. So we have to always examine all of the facts involving any incident to determine what, if any, crime has been committed. So these are not black and white things. So how we learn it is not technically how a criminal is going to behave. We don't know that someone's going to buy poison and then throw it out, and that would be a substantial step into not completing the crime. All right, so then we've got solicitation, and that's when a person asks or encourages or urging or commands another person to commit a crime with the specific intent that the person they are soliciting will actually commit a crime. So let's look at an example of that. Alan asks Bob to kill Alan's wife and gives him $5,000 to do it. Bob takes the money but never intends to commit the murder. Instead, Bob goes directly to the police. Alan is still guilty of solicitation to murder, even though no murder actually occurred. So the elements, remember, elements are those things that must be present or proven. The elements are, 1, the intent that another party commit the crime, means me asking someone else to commit a crime, and then asking or encouraging or requesting another party to commit a crime. That's the actus reus, the actual action of asking. If those two are present, then the person has taken a substantial step in completing this crime. Well, let's look at issues. So with communication, let's say that the receiving party doesn't hear or understand the solicitation. The defendant still has committed the crime of solicitation when they solicit with the intent that it be committed. So if I ask someone to go commit a crime and they didn't hear me say go commit that crime, it doesn't negate the fact that I asked them to, even though there was no communication there. And then it's the request to commit a legal act. A person may not be convicted of a crime of solicitation for asking another to commit a legal act, even though he mistakenly believes it to be a crime. So if I ask someone to go steal a bicycle that's laying on the side of the street and turns out that bicycle was trash, well, it's a legal act of taking that bicycle, so I should not get in trouble. Then you've got withdrawal. So in some states, if the person withdraws their solicitation, it might be an effective defense, but it has to be voluntary. The defendant changed his mind and told the other person to forget about it, then that would be withdrawal. However, the defendant, if they attempt to withdraw the solicitation only after they find out that they're being investigated by law enforcement, then that won't count, because they only stopped what they were doing because they were afraid of getting caught. So that is attempt and solicitation. And in our next video session, we will cover conspiracies and accomplices and accessories.